Welcome to Beyond Barber School. I am your host, Barbara Doza. This podcast, Beyond Barber School, is a space where listeners will hear stories from barbers, educators, and founders that are elevating the barbering industry in and out of the barbershop. Our hope here is to empower barbers with the knowledge necessary to take a courageous next step in their barber journey. Welcome to Beyond Barber School. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we're used to. I do not have a guest on the podcast today, unfortunately, but I have a pretty big announcement that I'm excited to share. So I hope you're not too disappointed. But let me start just by saying thank you. I want to say thank you to the first 4 guests that we've had on the podcast. It's been a little bit over a month since we've launched, and we've had 4 guests up to this point. Jackson, Ethan, Ryan, and Cray. Thank you so much for taking time to be our first 4 guests. It means a lot. I hope you enjoyed the podcast as much as I have, and I still do. I want to say thank you too to all the listeners that are out there. Appreciate all the support. You know, people have been listening, sharing, liking, even got a couple podcast reviews. So shout out to those 2 podcast reviews. I see you. I appreciate you helping me out a lot. But yeah, it means a lot of the support. You know, I launched this thing and didn't know how it would be received, but thanks for the support. It means a lot. So yeah, today's going to be a little different. I don't have a guest today. Full disclaimer, why don't you have a guest today? Well, to be 100 with you, coordinating schedules can be a lot of work. So I'm in the West Coast, but some of my guests are scattered across the country. And so honestly, I just haven't been able to coordinate some of those that are up next. So don't worry though, they are in the works. I will have those back soon. I got 3 guests that are lined up. It's just a matter of coordinating schedules. And so in the meantime, we are going to have a mini series. I'll talk more about what that mini series is in a little bit towards the end of this podcast. But before we do that, I wanted to do just a quick recap. These 4 guests have shared amazing things about their perspective and their stories. The last question that I asked all 4 of them on the respective podcasts was, do you have any advice that you want to give to our listeners? And so I took a clip from each of those episodes, and we're going to run it back right now. So we'll go from the top: Jackson, Ethan, Ryan, and Cray. Answering the question, do you have any advice? So let's run it from the top. We'll start with Jackson. Enjoy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, always be a sponge. Like, I don't care where you are in your career. Like, you can always be learning. My mentality and is like to always invest in yourself. Like, you have to invest in yourself, whether it be education, financially, in this industry, branding is really important. That's how you set yourself apart from other people. When you can invest in yourself, and your clients will see that, right?
Welcome to barbering and the business game. And you can do this. Don't be scared. Put in the work, and don't be lazy.
Absolutely, man. Chase your dreams relentlessly. Don't ever let anybody tell you what you can be. If anybody tells you that, just listen to your heart. Don't ever listen to what other people are telling you unless they have money directly tied to the project that's going to make you money. If it's some outsider's opinion, take it into consideration, but don't ever let it morph your direction. Just stay the course, and at the end of the day, do it for the love. Don't do it for the money. The money will come from the love. And just always chase your dreams. That's the main message.
2 words: delayed gratification. Bro, like, everyone's trying to be in a rush to make X amount of money or cut so and so. But it's just like, bro, you got to just take it one day at a time. And all those days of accumulated practice and perfecting the craft, by the time you get to wherever it is that you want to be, you'll be so far past that. And it's just like, bro, you got to just take it one day at a time, and just keep grinding. And yeah, you gonna get it.
Man, those guests are so amazing. I swear. I'm so grateful that each of them were willing to sit down with me and share some wisdom and share more about their barber journey. Thanks again to Jackson, Ethan, Ryan, and Cray. Advice was just always on point. Always on point. I've caught myself even listening back to the episodes and just continually being blown away by some of the things y'all share. So thank you, thank you. If you haven't had a chance to listen to any of those episodes, definitely go back and give it a listen. Yeah, it is waiting for you. They're all there. So speaking of advice, though, moving forward for these next 3 episodes, I'm going to be doing a mini series that I'm calling The Guideline. If you're a barber, or cosmetologist, then you should know where I'm going when I say the guideline, right? When you're in barber school, you learn about this term. I think the first time I learned about this term was when we were doing our 90-degree haircut on the doll head, getting it ready for, the perm and the all the chemical services. And so, when you start your haircut by creating your guide or your guideline, and then you want to make sure that you follow your guideline, whether it's the stationary guideline or your traveling guideline. If you lose track of where your guide is, then your haircut might be super uneven. And so I remember my instructor, shout out to my instructor, Andre, aka Dre. He taught me, all the foundations of just being the shear master, to say the least. The boy is crazy with the shears. But anyways, back to the idea of the guideline. I'm calling it the guideline these next few episodes because that's what I want to do. I want to share kind of my story, share a little bit more about my journey. I feel like for me, when I graduated and got launched into the workplace and into the shop, there were a lot of things that I hadn't necessarily learned, more like business practice things that I hadn't learned, whether it was going out and getting my business license, whether it was going out and creating a website, or whether it was going even managing my expenses, creating a budget, even preparing to do my taxes. There were things like that I just didn't necessarily have a guide on. Unfortunately, in barber school, you kind of glance over some of those topics in the Milady textbook. You don't necessarily do a deep dive, as you're, maybe getting ready just to pass the exam. And so when I graduated and got launched into the workplace, and, there were a lot of things I feel like I kind of had to learn on my own. And so I'm calling this series The Guideline. I hope to be a guide for you. By no means am I telling you that you have to do exactly what I did, or the exact same way that I did it. One, because, I actually, if I was to do it again, I wouldn't do it the same way that I did it. I probably would do some things differently. But I just want to share a little bit more about my journey, share some advice with y'all, just to give you a starting point. And then obviously you can remix on it or do your iterations on it and contextualize it to what makes sense for you. But I do want to cover just a few episodes, a few topics. They'll be a little bit shorter than usual. The interviews go a little bit longer. But with this mini-series, since it's just going to be me, I'm hoping to just be straight to the point. And hopefully, you really are walking away with some very practical steps that you can put into place. Or when you hear me share, you can kind of brainstorm again what would be a next step for you, right? Main thing about this podcast is empowering barbers to take that courageous next step in their barber journey, whatever that looks like for you. So as I share more about mine, hopefully it inspires you to do something in relation to yours. All right. So I actually am launching the first episode of The Guideline. It's out right now. This episode's, a little bit shorter, more just kind of recapping our first 4 episodes with our guests. Remind you to go give a listen to those, but you can actually go tune in to the next episode, The Guideline. And I'm going to do this for the next few episodes. Once the guideline is done, this kind of mini series, it's going to be a little experiment too, kind of see what the feedback is if you guys want me to do more episodes like this. But we'll just do these next 3, and then after that, we'll be back to regular programming with having guests on and whatnot. I do have the guests already lined up. It's just a matter of coordinating those, our calendars. It's different time zones and whatnot, and so it can be challenging to do. But we'll be back on with those guests after this next kind of mini series called The Guideline. All right. Please give me feedback too. If there's things you're enjoying, go ahead and give me a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, however you listen. Or if you haven't, like some actual advice for me that you want to just DM me and even be in conversation with, things you're liking, things that you think could be better, please, would love to hear back from y'all as well. All right. Also, yeah, if you actually do have someone that you think would be good for the podcast, I actually have had some people reach out already with some ideas of people that they maybe will want me to interview. If you're already thinking of people, shoot them my way. I obviously have a guest that I've already lined up, but you know, there may come a point in time when I am looking for somebody to bring in, and would love to hear so there's someone in your network that you love for me to sit down with and interview. So DMs are open. Hit me up on IG and I'll get back to you. Okay. Tune into the next episode, The Guideline. I'll see you there. See you.